Hello, everybody. Welcome to Super Sunday. Let's talk about Easter. My name is Kevin Hendricks with Church Marketing Sucks. We're here with Kelvin Co. and Kelley Hartnett, and we're going to talk about Easter. It's coming up soon, and so we want to help churches get ready for that. So we'll spend about 20 minutes here talking about Easter. We've got a new book out called Super Sunday: Planning Easter for Your Church. We'd love for you to check that out. But really, we want to kind of give you some helpful tips and ideas about how to plan, promote, and survive Easter. So we'll start off just kind of introducing who we've got here. I'm Kevin Hendricks. I'm the editor of Church Marketing Sucks, and I'm kind of the volunteer guy at my church, the only volunteer communications guy. And then we've got Kelvin Co. and Kelley Hartnett. So Kelley, why don't you start it off? Just tell us quickly who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name's Kelley. I have about a decade's worth of experience in the church comm field, both in a smaller church setting and in a larger church setting, and a couple of church starts. I recently transitioned out of that kind of in the local church role, and I do a lot of freelance writing for in the profit sector. I also do some free freelance writing in the nonprofit because that's the way that works. And I do a lot of blogging about social justice and Jesus, which in my mind are kind of intertwined.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Kelley.
Thank you.
And then we've got Kelvin.
As the creative arts pastor here at the Oaks, I oversee our live service production, as well as production of content, graphics, video, scripts, other creative elements, and then also communication, which includes web, social media, marketing, advertising. I've been doing this for a total of, 20-something years. I'm old.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've got some experience here today. And both of you have been kind of blogging and helping out with Church Marketing Sucks for a while now. I don't even know how long. It's been years. So it's great to have your perspective and your experience. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I mentioned the book, Super Sunday. We're kind of doing the official launch this week. So I'd encourage you to check that out. If you go to cfcclabs.org/Easter, you can grab a copy of the book there. So we'll start off by talking about how to plan Easter. Kelvin wrote the foreword for our book, kind of telling a story about how his church had stuff ready to go and had stages built and had all kinds of stuff set up, and then their pastor changed his mind and they tore it down and did something completely different. So Kelvin, tell us kind of what happened and kind of how you and your team dealt with it.
Oh boy. So yeah, that was Easter 2013. You know, we typically launch a series on Easter, and it was the biggest, most ambitious Easter service series we've ever planned. The stage was set up like Golgotha, Via Dolorosa. We had a 40-foot wide giant video screen. We presented, 11 powerful testimonies combining live video and music elements. It ended with a big kabuki drop, which is basically the video screen dropping, revealing 3 giant 15-foot tall crosses with Revelations 12:11. We will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, projected on the crosses while the band was leading the congregation singing that chorus. It was amazing. It was powerful. And then the pastor preached. A lot of people got saved. Then after that, we promoted the next series called In Search of Oz. Right? It was inspired by, obviously, the Wizard of Oz movie, teaching off of each character's search for wisdom and courage away home. Then this really crazy thing happened. So it was amazing. We've planned it for months. We had, for each Sunday following Easter, we had scenes from the movie that we've rehearsed, and for the promo that Sunday, remember I said we had Golgotha, we had the crosses, we had this slick trick move, if you will, planned where when we promote the series, we show the video. Within 2 minutes, the entire stage converts into the yellow brick road with the Emerald City on stage. And then next Sunday, leading up to the start of the series, pastor goes, all right, we need to talk. God's been dealing with me. Basically, God asked him, did I tell you to do this series? And, pastor now started to have this conversation, wrestling with the Lord. Well, actually, no. Where did you get the series from? God was asking him. I got this idea from another church. It's a really awesome series. Now, no, there is nothing wrong with that, right? But basically, God was taking our church and pastor to another level. After much prayer and seeking God, Pastor Scott realized that God was basically saying to him, instead of coming up with our own plans and then asking God to bless it, what about we change the approach and go, God, what's your plan? And when we hear from God what his plan, what his message is, then we don't even have to ask him to bless it, and because he's already blessed it. So Pastor being being quick to obey, he was ready to tear the whole thing down. And even though we didn't have a plan, and even though we spent a lot of money and energy and resources into this, he was ready to rebuke. But God said, "Oh, no, you're not going to get off the hook this easy." So essentially, he continued to pray. We continued to pray with him, and then the series, the series In Search of Oz, was planned for 5 weeks. Each week, we tore the set apart in front of the audience. And Pastor basically starts the message with, this was what we planned, with himself confessing that it was not easy, by the way. It was very hard for him to do that. But I said, it was my pride. It was my basically God revealed to him, he's the wizard, he's putting on this show, and asking God to bless it. And then after that, we realized, we looked at our count. One of the things we've developed over the years, and would even say we're kind of proud of, is that we actually have, at any given time, have a whole year's worth of series planned out. The whole calendar, we had to blow it out because we realized most of the things that are on there weren't things that we saw from God. Now, I want to be very, very careful. There's nothing wrong with looking at what other churches are doing and getting ideas from that, right? God wasn't even saying, oh, you can't do artistic, creative things. In fact, he wants us to do all of that, but all of it needs to be in submission to him. So that redefined, it didn't just redefine who I am, how I did my job. It redefined who I am as a Christ follower. And the biggest lesson I learned there about planning for Easter is, before I tap into all the superpowers that I have, artistic, creative ideas, my team, my friends like Kevin and all of my friends from Church Marketing Sucks, tap into ideas. First and foremost, what does God want to say to my church, to me? Because my work has to overflow from that.
Yeah, that's great, Kelvin. And that the forward in the book, you kind of lay out kind of how it changed everything, and kind of how your planning has changed going forward to make sure you're hearing from God first. That's awesome. Kelley, let's hear from you. You have a chapter in the book kind of talking about tackling Easter one bite at a time.
Yeah, just like that giant chocolate bunny that we used to love to get as kids. You can't stuff that whole thing in your mouth and expect not to throw it back up. That's a terrible image, but you know what I mean. So thinking about tackling Easter just like you would a giant chocolate bunny, and that's one bite at a time. And I do think it starts exactly where Kelvin said, and I said this in the book too. You have to start at the very beginning by reading the Easter story and reading it again and reading it again. Because if you go straight to what are the creative elements and how are we going to promote it and what's the cool new thing we're going to do this year and how are we going to make it even bigger and better, that's likely not what God is after from you. God wants a fresh retelling of the story, but the story is already there. Like, there's no purpose in losing your mind before you even begin. So for me, that was always the very first bite to take, was to center myself in the story itself. And then the second one is just to start. Like, I procrastinate to the nth degree, especially when it's something that's really, really big. So my second bite is always just to start brainstorming, write things down. Don't assume I'm going to remember everything that comes to mind, but just writing it down. And then remembering, thirdly, that it's not just my thing. I'm not solely responsible for filling the pews or the seats in the worship space. I'm not solely responsible for getting the word out. I'm just one little itty-bitty player in the plan. And so to make sure that I'm collaborating with the people around me, to make sure that we do the very best that we absolutely can and share this story with as many people as we possibly can. The fourth bite is to create action items. I don't know about you, but my least favorite kind of meeting is a meeting where we come together and we develop a plan and we walk away and then nobody remembers who's supposed to do anything with it. So to make sure that you have action items with deadlines. Otherwise, it'll be 2 weeks before Easter, and once again, you'll be back in that place of losing your mind. Fifth, execute that plan, and sixth is equip the people, and do not get those two things reversed, because when you start executing people at Easter, it doesn't go very well in the community. They don't like that. So execute the plan and then equip people. And that's the biggest one for me, is just making sure, again, that I know I'm not the only one responsible for bringing people to hear this story, but to make sure we're equipping our congregations with social media images or little invite cards or whatever it is that we choose to do to equip other people to share the story. So that's my chapter in like 20 seconds or 25 seconds, whatever I just did.
That's good. It's a helpful reminder that it's not all on our shoulders.
Right.
Sometimes we church communicators try and do it all and take all of the weight and all of the stress, and that's not a good plan. It doesn't go well.
Right.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
So as we talk about promoting Easter, what works for you guys, or what have you seen that works in trying to promote Easter? What makes a good service or a good promotional plan?
Kelvin, I'll let you go first again if you want to.
Okay, thank you. Know your people.
Mm-hmm.
Know your people. There's, you can have all the money in the world, the best artistic, creative ideas, advertise, hire a helicopter even, to do all sorts of gimmick and stuff. I'd strongly recommend, first and foremost, know your people, right? And how do you do that? You know the people of your church. I call it the 3 C's. Know the people of your church. Know your community. And as you process through that, you kind of start to define, what's the cultural context of the season my church and my community is in? And then your most powerful tool is always relational evangelism. The people of your church inviting their friends, inviting their neighbor to come to church. And you do that by equipping them, right? You do that by equipping them, whether it's social media posts. We actually created a page called social.theoaksonline.org, for key leaders of the church, where all the graphics, all the copy, all this, for things that are coming up, they can write, especially Easter. That's where there's a lot of things for them to post. But we equip the people, right? Vision cast is clear. What are the verbal handles? What's the call to action? And then next you empower them, right? You give them permission. You give them invite cards. Equip them with empower them to go out and invite their friends. And then lastly, I'd recommend, leading up to Easter, as you vision cast, as you equip them, as you give them the tools and the why, vision cast them to go invite their friends and able to do relational evangelism, celebrate that. You've probably heard this before. You get what you celebrate. Celebrate the win. Show them what success looks like. Celebrate the story, whether by video or by telling the story from the stage. Oh, here's this person. They invited this friend. They came, their friend came, and oh my gosh, as a result, their lives were changed. Their lives are better, and and they grew and found the Lord, and healing or deliverance or whatever testimony you can share from somebody who did relational evangelism. So that is something that just always works with any creative idea or any type of Easter campaign.
Absolutely, that's good. Kelly, what do you have to add?
Well, I agree, obviously, with everything Kelvin said. I think there's one thing that's really important to remember. I've heard Easter referred to as the Super Bowl of the church. And I agree with that on some levels, because I think what we're saying is this is the time of year when a lot of people are open to attending a church service, because it's just kind of part of the American culture. This is what we do. On the other hand, there is still going to be a certain group of people who have absolutely no interest in walking through our church doors. And so if we put all of our energy and effort in relational evangelism toward Easter and maybe Christmas Eve, I think we're going to be missing out, and we're not challenging our people enough to remember that it's not just about these two big events in our church. It's about living a lifestyle that honors Jesus and that is curious to people and that is compelling to them. It makes them wonder, what is it really about this church thing that is making these people live so differently in our community? And so I think it's really important that, yes, it is the Super Bowl, but you have to remember those NFL teams practice all year. They work hard all year. They don't just suit up for that one game and hope that they're going to knock it out of the park. Which I think I just mixed my metaphors on Super Bowl and knocking it out of the park. But you understand what I'm saying. And so I think that is really super important to keep in mind.
That's really helpful. That's a good word. Thank you, Kelly. The other thing we kind of deal with as church communicators is just the stress of Easter. I feel like we just finished Christmas. We're kind of still in that post-Christmas season, and now Easter's coming up. How do we kind of deal with the stress of Easter coming, and how do we kind of survive this coming season where it's the buildup of stress all over again towards another Super Bowl of a church weekend?
For me, it's all about planning. I mean, if you're going to try to do this flying by the seat of your pants, you're going to lose your mind. And so to make sure that you have a plan in place that you can execute and to trust that plan rather than just thinking you were off your rocker when you put it together, but just to have that in place from the very beginning. And to be honest with you, a lot of our Easter stress has really more to do with making sure that none of the other balls in the air drop while we're dealing with Easter. And so I think one of the ways that we can even prepare for Easter is to do what we can ahead of time and to let go of the things that really don't matter during that season. Like if your church is planning to start some new initiative in the 6 weeks leading up to Easter, please feel welcome as your church's church communicator to say, hold up, wait. So I wonder if that's really a smart idea, because chances are nobody else is thinking about how many different stories you're trying to tell at once and the stress that that's going to put on your staff. And honestly, on your regular churchgoers, too, who feel like they have all of this stuff going on at one time. So plan and keep the main thing the main thing.
That's absolutely agree with Kelly, and she outlined earlier, the 6 steps of planning. Absolutely brilliant, and this really is not a cheap way of endorsing the book, but if not for anything else, you need that chapter because, whether you took notes or not, it's just good to have that outline to follow. The only other thing I would add to that is, okay, pardon me for saying these words on your show or on this Google Hangout, but I would recommend, please kill the doo-doo head. My team, they're used to me saying that. I say that intentionally so that it sticks in your head. The more you lead, the more you do, the less you lead. So you take Kelly's idea, you take Kelly's plan, and you follow that plan. Then you take a look. Are most of these action items, do they have your name on it? If they do, you probably need to reevaluate. That's probably one of the biggest cause of stress is if you're trying to do everything yourself. Try to kill the doo-doo head, right? Look for leaders. Look for somebody else who can help drive or help run some of these things. And then I'm guessing some of you are thinking, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm just a graphic designer. I can't tell other people to do. One of the things in our world, right, in church world, is we have a lot of volunteers. We have a lot of people who want to help. I don't need to do everything, right? I don't need to do everything. We have, about 2 months left, so maybe my strength is graphic design, and I need to focus that. I need to lead that. Maybe the phone calling, the following up of all the other things, maybe coordinating volunteers, following up with vendors, when the items arrive, getting them put up, delivering them to the right people. Maybe those are things other people can do, right? And then the other 2 things that I would recommend is please take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Just because it's the quote-unquote Super Bowl, it's not worth the usual, sleepless nights and all that. Try to remember, the quality of your ministry is only as good as the quality of your personal ministry and your ministry at home. It's not worth it. My prayer whenever it gets busy is always this: God gave me enough time to do what I need to do. So, there you go.
Thank you, Kelvin. That's great. I was going to ask for a word of encouragement, and I think you just gave it right there. So thank you. I want to thank both of you for joining us here. We're about at the end of our 20 minutes, so I want to honor everyone's time and not go longer. So Super Sunday, Planning Easter for Your Church, is now available. cfcclabs.org/Easter. You can grab a copy of that book. It's in digital and print formats, so you can buy the digital and start reading it right now. So go check it out, and we really hope and pray that your churches just have a great time this Easter, that you're able to plan, you're able to survive this season, and that God just really speaks and moves through your churches. So thank you, Kelvin and Kelley, for joining us, and thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah. Alrighty. Take care, guys.
All right. Happy Easter.
Thank you, too.